Now, Miguel was 18 when I met him, and the first words that Miguel said to me were, "What the hell do you want from me? What the hell you want from me?" And he looked me up and down, and he walked away. Now, to understand why those would be the first words that Miguel would say to me, I need to go back in time a little bit. You see, Miguel had been in the foster care system since around the time he was 6. His mother was a heroin addict, and after multiple attempts to get clean, she overdosed and passed away. No one's really sure how long Miguel and his younger brother and sister were alone in their apartment in Humboldt Park, neighborhood of Chicago, in the middle of the winter, without food, without heat. But needless to say, when DCFS and the police and social workers got there to take the children into custody and bring them into the foster care system, they were terrified, traumatized, hungry, cold, and just in shock. Miguel was the oldest of the three and the only one who really had some sense of what was going on. Now, the people that took him in, of course, were loving people who wanted to help them and support them, but at the end of the day, they were still complete strangers. And Miguel and his siblings were all put into different foster care settings. And that's how Miguel's very long journey in the foster care system began. Now, there were two really major things working against Miguel. And I'm sure a lot of you have worked with kids like this. You may have kids on your caseload right now like this. But the first major challenge that Miguel had was that he started pushing back because of all the things that had happened to him and that he went through and all that trauma and that anger that he didn't know how to process. He started pushing back against exactly the people who were trying to help him. And he became the problem kid. And sometimes you know how those labels get slapped on a kid and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And he would go from group home to group home, foster home to foster home, new school to the next school, again, labeled the problem kid. And he'd go with more hours and more services on his IEP than he had before, and he never stayed anywhere for very long. And he just became more, all that anger just kind of just hardened in him. The second major challenge that he had was that even when somebody kind of broke through and made a connection with him, maybe a year later, maybe two, that person would inevitably move on to another job, another town, and he'd have to start all over again. And this happened to him over and over and over again. These risk factors are going to be there with the kids that we're working with that are our neighbors and maybe, again, living in your home. So I want to share with you this one core idea that's kind of really going to be the through line of everything that I talked to you guys about this morning. And it's this idea of a board of directors. If you think about it, every major organization in the world, every major company, nonprofits, a lot of the companies you work for, volunteer for, have a board of directors. It's a group of people who guide their decision making, who guide their strategic planning, and help them chart their course forward, okay? So consider the idea that just like every organization has a board of directors that kind of guides their trajectory, every kid also has a board of directors. But for them, it's like a virtual round table of the people who they're listening to and paying attention to as they figure out what it means to be an adult in the world. So think for a second who's on their board of directors. It's definitely their friends. It's celebrities they follow on social media. It's sports figures they idolize. It's musicians whose music they love. So my hypothesis, my idea today is that as an advocate, as a volunteer, as a parent, as a neighbor, as a friend, an aunt, an uncle, whatever your role is, as you think about that kid that comes to mind, as we're sitting here talking about these issues, your goal, your number one goal is to be on their board of directors. You don't need to be the chairman of the board, but you want a seat at that table. Okay? Now the only way, there's only one surefire way that I know of to get on and to stay on their board of directors. Okay? And it's to have a relationship that they perceive as valuable. That's pretty much the only currency that will reliably work, is that they have to perceive that there's value in that relationship with you or whoever is that person that they're considering putting on their board of directors. Okay? So if they feel like they can talk to you, and more importantly, that you'll listen, you got a shot at being on their board of directors. Now, they're not going to come to you and talk to you about everything. We're talking about kids after all. But when the big things hit, and they're inevitably going to hit, you want to have the kind of relationship where they'll come to you, where they'll talk to you, where they'll consider giving you a seat at that table. So going back to Miguel for a moment, Miguel was determined to send me the message that he had no need for me. Right? That was his MO with me, was that this guy is irrelevant, give me my check, and I'll see you, pal. Okay? But I had sort of an ace up my sleeve, if you will, that Miguel didn't see coming. I had a car. Now, it was nothing fancy. It wasn't an Escalade or something that a kid at that point in time might think was valuable. It was a 1989 maroon red Toyota Corolla. But it was 4 more wheels than Miguel had, so whether or not he wanted to admit it, I now had some value to him. But it gets better. Because my 1989 maroon red Toyota Corolla was fully pimped out with a factory model cassette tape player. It's impressive, I know, right? Now, like a lot of young men, Miguel was an aspiring rapper. Miguel loved a group called Bone Thugs and Harmony. Any nostalgia going on here? Bone Thugs and Harmony? Okay. Now, Miguel loved to listen to Bone Thugs and Harmony. Now, let's just take a moment. One look at me, and it's pretty obvious I'm a guy who listens to a lot of Bone Thugs and Harmony, right? Truth is, I'd never heard of a group called Bone Thugs and Harmony. But now I had Miguel in the car, and I can't tell you how many miles we put on my 1989 maroon red Toyota Corolla driving around listening to Bone Thugs and Harmony. But now I had Miguel in the car. Now I had a captive audience. Now I'm dissing on him. He's dissing on me. We're goofing around. He can't believe it when I have the audacity to say that I think I could do more push-ups than he could. And he really couldn't believe it when I pulled the car over. We had a push-up contest and showed him that I was right. And before you know it, Miguel was calling me to see if we can hang out. One day, we were in the car, or we were in a park rather, and we saw a group of kids throwing the baseball around. And he just happened to mention to me in passing how much he used to love throwing the ball around. But he hadn't done it in years because there's nobody to throw the ball with. So that afternoon I went out and bought 2 baseball mitts. And that became our thing, throwing the baseball around. That was my big hook with him. Because that's really the deal, is that connection is the currency that gets you on their board of directors. You got to find some way to kind of just fly under the radar, get them laughing, get them smiling, disarm them. We can't just sit down with the kid and start asking them a ton of questions. That's going to feel more like an interrogation than a connection. And the truth is if you want to kind of get to the deeper things that are going on in their life, the deeper subtext of what's going on, you got to also be able to find a way to just kind of connect with them really casually and make them laugh or find some commonality, some common ground, right? It was because I did things like Bone Thugs and driving around with Miguel that opened up the conversations about the deeper stuff we really need to be talking about his future, about managing money, about whether or not a girl he's interested in is the right kind of person he should be investing himself in. The bigger decisions that he had to really start to contemplate in his life. But it all started with much more simple things. But I think the real question that we should be asking for every kid is, what are they going to be successful at? Like, what is the thing that is where we're going to really see them shine? We're going to see their talents and their aptitudes really come forward, because that's what we really want to be focusing on. It's interesting, if you look at the research around the biggest predictors of career success, it's actually not things like school performance, GPA. It's much more soft skills and character building traits like self-regulation, ability to form meaningful relationships, a growth mindset, having good social skills. Those actually end up being better predictors of success later in life, more than a 4.0 GPA is ever going to be. So I think the major thing is that we have to really encourage them to find their thing. Whatever the thing is, every kid needs a thing. For some, it's going to be on the basketball court. For some, it's going to be in a welding shop or working with their hands. For some, it's going to be volunteering for a cause and being a leader and organizing. It doesn't really matter, but they got to have a thing. They got to have a thing apart from devices, as a part of or in addition to school, where their own aptitudes can really shine. Because if they have that, The major benefit that comes from having a thing is that's where their self-confidence really comes from. That's how they learn to feel good about themselves. That's how they build self-efficacy and feel like they're capable of making things happen in their life. And if they can make it happen in a sport or in a club or an activity, then they start to realize they can make it happen in other areas. So every kid's got to have a thing. But I realized over time that I've become less concerned with whether or not they act now, but more, do they remember it? Because a lot of times we're planting seeds with the kids we work with. If we build that relationship, you're going to say things to them that you're not going to know if it sticks, but you got to trust that it's lodging in there. I've had kids that I worked with 20 years before contact me on Facebook saying how helpful I was, and they remember a certain conversation we had that I frankly, honestly don't remember, but they do. So you never know what's lodging in their brain. And sometimes, we just got to kind of just love them and just give them the room to figure things out, but keep that connection. I remember one time with Miguel, we were getting into my car. We'd just been throwing the baseball around. We were getting into my car, and we had just been throwing the baseball around, and just as we're getting in, he was on the passenger side, and I just happened to look up before I unlocked the car, before all the key fobs, having to just look up, and I just saw this look of just like lightness and brightness and levity on Miguel's face that I'd never seen before. Just a couple years into working with him, I just had never seen it before, because just Miguel always had that mean mug look, just trying to keep everybody at a distance. But something in him was just free and alive. Now as a parent myself, it's like what every kid they should have on their face, of just feeling happy and feeling safe and feeling connected to somebody, having fun. But I never seen it on Miguel's face, and it really moved me. It really touched me. We got in the car, and I was quiet because I just was so moved by it. I was really touched by it. And I wanted to acknowledge it somehow. I wasn't really sure what to say. I kind of wanted to be, it was meaningful to me. I wanted it to be meaningful to him somehow. So I was just quiet there for a second. He noticed at a certain point that I didn't put the key in the ignition. I was just kind of sitting there, just trying to figure out what I wanted to say to him. He says, "Yo, what's up, Josh?" And I was just quiet for a second. I said, "Miguel, I just want to tell you that I love you, man." And Miguel was quiet for a second. He said, "Yo, that's nice, Josh. You're just not my type." So you do your best. In closing, if I'm able to have just a passing through Miguel's life, to have a relationship like that, there's nothing that I did that was that unusual or that, clever or creative. It's pretty basic, simple things about just trying to build a relationship and a connection with the kid so that it could be there to kind of help guide him through some of the tough stuff in his life. And it's the same stuff you guys are all doing. But don't let that deter you or make you stop believing that you're making a difference. Because when you make a choice to be on a kid's board of directors and you choose to play a role in their life, you really are changing a life. So please never doubt for a second that the difference is always you. Thanks for letting me be a part of your day.